Discovery Kids is back.
For some of you, this means nothing. Maybe you didn't grow up with this forgotten block of children's television. But for others, that sound, the cheerful chomp from D, might spark something. A half-buried memory. A cartoon you forgot you loved. Maybe you remember Kenny the Shark. Maybe you stayed up watching the kid-sized survival drama of Endurance. Maybe you were a little too young in 2005, watching Truth or Scare with the lights off.
Real kids get real scared.
Wolves, vampires, haunted castles. Are they truth or scare?
Watch Truth or Scare Friday nights at 8, 7 Central, hosted by Buffy the Vampire Slayer's Michelle Trachtenberg.
Truth or Scare on Discovery Kids.
Today we're diving into one of my favorite pieces of early 2000s nostalgia, Discovery Kids. It wasn't just another Saturday morning block. Discovery Kids went head-to-head with ABC Kids and Kids WB, competing for our attention every weekend. It was never the loudest or flashiest option, but for those who tuned in, it felt like a hidden gem. A place where adventure, science, and imagination all lived under one roof. And then, one day, it vanished. No finale, no goodbye. One week it was there, the next it was gone. No more late-night strategy on Endurance. No more suburban chaos with Kenny the Shark. No more historical lessons from Teutonstein. Flight 29 down left its castaways stranded, trading spaces, boys versus. Girls stopped swapping rooms. Time Warp Trio froze in time. Darcy's Wildlife never got another chapter. For a lot of us, turning to that channel was routine, until suddenly it wasn't. I remember weekends at my pawpaw's house. The world felt quieter back then. No iPads, no smartphones, just TV antennas with maybe 5 channels. Discovery Kids wasn't always the first choice. If Kids WB or ABC Kids were options, those were usually the headliners. But somehow, I always ended up back here. Maybe it was because Endurance felt real, like something we could actually compete on. Maybe it was the charm of a talking shark best friend. It wasn't flashy, it wasn't trying too hard. But it worked. And that's what makes its story so interesting. What was Discovery Kids really meant to be? How did it carve out such a lasting place in our memories without ever being the #1 network? And why did it disappear so suddenly that most of us didn't even realize we'd miss it until it was already gone? So indulge me for a moment to reminisce. Maybe you too were a kid then, catching Discovery Kids on the antenna or on cable, or maybe you have never heard of it. Today I'll be going over the shows that made me happiest as a kid, and giving a history lesson on how Discovery Kids were formed and created, and how it was meant to serve as entertainment for children, but also to teach children about science, history, and most importantly, life. So sit back, and this is Retro Chesley's The Death of Discovery Kids. Discovery Kids may not have been the biggest name in the game, but it mattered. So what happened? What led to its rise and its quiet death? Let's go back to the beginning, and I do mean the beginning.
You're watching the Discovery Channel.
Here's a short history lesson on how we got the Discovery Kids block I grew up with. So before we talk about Discovery Kids and how great it was and how it disappeared, we need to understand the beginning stages of it all. Let's rewind to the mid-1990s. Back when cable television was exploding. New channels were launching constantly, and media companies were racing to carve out niche audiences. Discovery Communications was already thriving with the Discovery Channel, and branching out with networks like Animal Planet and Science Channel. But something interesting was happening. Nearly 40% of kids, ages 2 to 17, were tuning into Discovery Channel at least once a month. They weren't just background viewers while their parents watched. They were engaged. That raised a simple but powerful question. If kids are already here, why not build something just for them? That idea became Discovery Kids. One of the key figures behind the launch was Marjorie Kaplan, a senior vice president at Discovery. She recognized that young viewers were curious, genuinely drawn to science, history, and real-world storytelling. The goal wasn't to create another loud cartoon factory. It was to blend education and entertainment in a way that parents approved of and kids actually wanted to watch. And the timing couldn't have been better. In the mid-90s, the FCC was pushing for stronger educational programming requirements for children. Networks needed E/I content to meet federal guidelines. Discovery Kids wasn't just a creative gamble, it was a strategic move. The channel officially launched in 1996 as part of Discovery's digital cable expansion. Its mission was clear: teach through adventure, science, and storytelling. And for anyone who remembers it, the bright yellow D mascot, complete with that cheerful little chomp, became its signature. The lineup included originals like Endurance, Scout Safari, Strange Days at Blake Holsey High, alongside existing programs like Operation Junkyard and later additions such as Trading Spaces, Boys vs. Girls. Then in 2003, the block introduced Real Tunes,
On Discovery Kids, pass it on. Ow!
bringing animated series like Kenny the Shark, Tootenstein. This was significant. It marked NBC's first Saturday morning cartoons since 1992. At the time, this kind of synergy was becoming the norm. CBS had partnered with Nickelodeon. The WB leaned on Cartoon Network. ABC rebranded its lineup as ABC Kids with Disney Channel content. Discovery and NBC were simply joining the larger trend of broadcast and cable alliances. And for a while, it worked. Discovery Kids found its lane. It wasn't the loudest block on Saturday mornings, and it didn't rely on nonstop slapstick or celebrity tie-ins. Instead, it built its identity around curiosity. The shows felt bigger than a studio set. They felt real. Whether it was survival challenges, historical adventures, or science experiments gone wrong, the network trusted kids to think, to question, and to imagine themselves in the story. That balance, education wrapped in genuine adventure, is what made it stick. Discovery Kids didn't talk down to its audience. It invited them in. You weren't just watching contestants compete or characters solve problems. You were learning how they did it, and somehow it never felt like homework. Discovery Kids wasn't defined by branding or corporate strategy. It was defined by its shows. From the brutal strategy and social politics of Endurance to the suburban absurdity of Kenny the Shark. From the historical chaos of Tootenstein to the survival drama of Flight 29 Down. Each series carried a slightly different tone, but together they created something rare, a Saturday morning block that felt adventurous, smart, and just a little more grown up than its competition. So let's break them down, one by one, and revisit the shows that made Discovery Kids unforgettable. Among Discovery Kids' biggest hits was Endurance, a survival-style reality competition that was basically Survivor for teens, and it quickly became one of the network's most-watched shows. By the mid-2000s, Discovery Kids had found its golden age. Endurance became the crown jewel of the lineup, running multiple seasons and creating stars out of its young contestants. If the formula for Survivor is to challenge adults, what's the uplifted version for kids? That question bugged creator J.D. Roth, a former actor turned producer and host. As a parent, he noticed that while children watch Survivor, he didn't want them imitating its cutthroat behavior. Instead, he envisioned a show that preserved the thrill of competition but focused on positive growth. And Endurance was born.
We'll count down the top 5 all-time twists. I got a little surprise for you.
Roth co-created the series with Todd A. Nelson under their Three Ball Productions banner and premiered it in 2002 on both Discovery Kids and NBC's Discovery Kids on NBC Saturday Morning Block. The show followed 20 teens, ages 12 to 15, paired as boy-girl teams who were dropped into remote locations. From Catalina Island to Baja, Hawaii, the Tehachapi Mountains, the High Sierras, and Fiji. They battled through physical and mental challenges with the goal of collecting pieces of the Pyramid of Endurance, symbols representing qualities like friendship, courage, perseverance, and teamwork. Hosted by Roth himself, the show emphasized character building through competition, and in just 6 seasons, 2002 to 2008, it became one of Discovery Kids' most iconic and enduring programs. The games and their impact on us. From the first right-to-stay competitions, where contestants held onto bars or ropes as long as possible, to more brain-teasing temple missions, endurance threw kids into a melting pot of physical strain and strategic decisions. Each win earned a pyramid piece, like strength, ingenuity, or trust, turning the show into a kind of values-based scavenger hunt. More than mimicking the show's challenges, endurance shaped how its audience viewed competition altogether. Not as a race, but as a personal journey. It taught us to value the qualities of teamwork, trust, and mental grit. And in a world where reality TV often emphasizes backstabbing and drama, endurance offered a gentler, growth-oriented adventure, one that encouraged us to stretch our limits, not our egos. The stars, their legacy and lasting impact. Endurance wasn't just a show. It was a springboard for everyday kids to feel like stars. Some contestants went on to prominence. John Mannion, one of the original winners, later starred on MTV's The Challenge. And even brief appearances lingered. Actor Glenn Powell appeared on Endurance as a 13-year-old. A footnote
I felt like I could do it for a long time, but my balance didn't think so. When I realized I was going home, it was the worst feeling.
that still comes up when his name surfaces today. But regardless of post-show fame, the bigger impact was emotional. Many former contestants describe it as life-changing, building lifelong confidence, forging strong friendships, and teaching real-world resilience. Despite its popularity with fans, Endurance came to an end in 2008 after 6 seasons. The cancellation wasn't because the show failed, it was more about the network itself. Around that time, Discovery Kids was undergoing major changes, eventually transitioning into the Hub, later Discovery Family, after a joint venture with Hasbro. With the rebrand, programming shifted away from reality-based competition shows toward toy-driven cartoons and family sitcoms. Unfortunately, Endurance didn't fit into the new vision. And so, one of Discovery Kids' brightest gems disappeared. Not because audiences stopped caring, but because the network moved in a different direction. Trading Spaces, Boys vs. Girls was developed as a kid-friendly spin-off of TLC's wildly popular home redecorating series, Trading Spaces. The concept was created by Stan Rogow, a producer looking to bring the spirit of redesign and creative collaboration to a younger audience. Targeting viewers aged roughly 8 to 14, the show aired on Discovery Kids beginning in May 2003, poised to ride the successful wave of family-oriented makeover-based reality TV that had captured mainstream attention in the early 2000s. The idea was greenlit as part of Discovery Kids' strategy to develop formats that resonated with kids by adapting existing adult-leaning hits.
Hi, I'm Diane Mizoda, and this is
Trading Spaces, Boys vs. Girls!
the show where we find out what really happens when boys redecorate
Executives saw potential in recasting Trading Spaces' competitive creativity in a more playful sibling-style format. Two friends, each from different genders, would swap rooms and redesign them according to their friends' tastes and hobbies. This concept fit perfectly into the network's mission to blend fun, imagination, and lighthearted competition, all while leveraging the familiarity of a proven format. The show premiered on May 17, 2003, and ran through December 3, 2005, ultimately spanning 4 seasons and 46 episodes. Episodes typically featured two friends, boys versus girls, usually between the ages of 8 and 14, redesigning each other's bedrooms based on imaginative themes that reflected the other's hobbies or style. Eye-catching room transformations were a core draw. Think skate park ramps, spa-like lounges, and even hamster-themed decor, all executed with the help of young designers and carpenters. Some episodes garnered particular attention. In the premiere, a boys' room featured a wall mural, skateboard ramp headboard, and a bed sunk into a disco-style lighted floor. The girls' room became a red carpet, Hollywood-themed paradise, with flashing lights and even a popcorn machine. A memorable special episode promoted Spy Kids 3D, where Alexa Vega and Daryl Sabara appeared, participating in a redesign with obstacle courses and spy-themed furnishings, a perfect blend of movie tie-in and kid spectacle. Despite its creative premise and enthusiastic reception, Trading Spaces Boys vs. Girls wrapped up by late 2005. The abrupt end wasn't due to poor ratings. Instead, it coincided with Discovery Kids undergoing a strategic shift, especially after its transformation into the hub. As a result, Boys vs. Girls didn't align with the evolving programming vision and was quietly discontinued. Reruns lingered on the hub until June 2011, indicating that Discovery still valued its past lineup. But in the new content era, the show's format simply didn't fit the direction of a family channel with stronger branding priorities. This isn't the last time you're going to hear about the hub. Truth or Scare. When Discovery Kids first launched Truth or Scare, it felt like nothing else on Saturday morning television. Hosted by the late Michelle Trachtenberg, the series blended gothic atmosphere, history, and spooky legends into half-hour chunks that made kids feel like they were sneaking into the adult world of ghost stories and urban myths.
Want to see something really scary?
Dare to watch Scary Saturday Night Sleepover every Saturday night, only on Discovery.
It wasn't just another cartoon or game show. It had a chilling tone that stood out in the lineup. I'll admit it, part of the reason I tuned in every week wasn't just the ghost stories. I had a huge crush on Michelle Trachtenberg. There was something about the way she'd sit in that gothic chair, lowering her voice like she was letting us in on a secret, that hooked me. But the crush came with a price. Terror. My brother and I would huddle together on the couch, swearing we weren't scared, even though the moment she mentioned castle ghosts or real vampires, we were clutching the blanket like our lives depended on it. It was this weird combination of butterflies in my stomach and my heart racing from fear. Half love, half pure panic. The show itself usually tackled legends of haunted castles, werewolves, or cursed objects, diving into whether there was truth behind the myths or just scary stories meant to thrill. Each episode mixed reenactments, eerie music, and Michelle's signature deadpan delivery. While Disney and WB Kids kept things light with cartoons and slapstick humor, Truth or Scare leaned into the macabre. And that's what made it special. It treated kids like they could handle real horror. Though Truth or Scare only lasted a single season, it was one of the few shows that dared to scare kids while still educating them about history and folklore. For me, it will always be tied to those long summer nights, the crush that never went away, and the strange thrill of being scared out of my mind. Michelle Trachtenberg may be gone, but the eerie feeling she left behind through Truth or Scare is something I'll never forget. Discovery Kids, the cartoon era, is my personal favorite era. I enjoyed Truth or Scare and Endurance. Even the Flight 29 Down was very fun. But cartoons have always been my favorite. Even today, I'll pick a cartoon or anime over live action. During this period, Discovery Kids had original IP to rival Disney's Saturday morning block and the WB Kids. Let's get into it. Time Warp Trio. There was something extra special about Time Warp Trio. Even when Scout's Safari and Trading Spaces were on, Time Warp Trio had my full attention.
Be careful what you wish for.
I'd skip lunch, kick off my sneakers, and let that mysterious book whisk me away into history instead of tuning into Disney or WB. It was the perfect blend of humor, education, and surprise, and as a kid, nothing felt more thrilling than learning about real historical figures and cronies across time in the same cartoon. That era was the golden age of Discovery Kids animation, and Time Warp Trio, with its zany time jumps and snappy banter, felt like an exclusive backstage pass to history's wildest moments. How the Time Warp Trio came to be. Time Warp Trio was brought to life by John Sieska, the author behind the beloved children's book series that began with Knights of the Kitchen Table, published in the early 1990s. The animated adaptation was produced by WGBH Boston in partnership with Soup to Nuts, and it aired on the Discovery Kids block starting in July 2005, wrapping up just over a year later in July 2006. The core trio, Joe, the mischievous magician, Sam, the nerdy, cautious thinker, and Fred, the sports-obsessed goofball, were voice-acted by Mark Rendell, Darren Frost, and Scott McCord, respectively. As the series progressed, their future counterparts, Jody, Samantha, and Freddie, joined the time-traveling escapades, each voiced with personality by Sarah Gadon, then Taja Eisen, Lori Elliott, and Sunday Muse. Let's not forget the dastardly Mad Jack, a villainous uncle adding comedic tension and stakes to the plot. Time Warp Trio launched with 26 episodes, all packed into a single season. Even though a second season was planned, Time Warp Trio ended after just one season in 2006. The reruns continued on the Hub until mid-2011, so the show didn't vanish overnight. But the momentum and funding for a new season just didn't gel. In a way, its cancellation felt more like a historical anomaly than a failure. Like one of the adventures it presented, it just ran out of time. But oh, what a time it gave us. Time Warp Trio is still one of my most favorite cartoons as a kid. From the friendship, the action-packed episodes, and the little history in between. For kids whose ideas of Saturday mornings were shaped by whimsical time travel and educational mischief, Time Warp Trio wasn't just a cartoon. It was a time machine, sparking curiosity and imagination. Even now, thinking back to that catchy theme, those unpredictable historical leaps, and how we begged our parents to let us watch just one more episode, well, that's the kind of legacy no network cancellation can erase. Teutenstein, lasting 3 seasons and even winning an Emmy. Most episodes revolved around Tut, his loyal cat Luxor, and his best friend Cleo Carter, as they got into mischief while dealing with gods, curses, and ancient relics. The mix of mythology with kid-sized adventures gave it a unique hook. Popular episodes like The Curse of the Pharaoh and Eternal Youth weren't just fun. They sparked curiosity about Egyptian lore for a whole generation. Tut himself was hilariously spoiled, bossy, and arrogant, which made his fish-out-of-water antics fun to watch, while Cleo grounded the story as the modern kid audiences could relate to.
About you, isn't it? Yes.
For me, Teutenstein was the kind of show that felt like a guilty pleasure. It wasn't just cartoons running around being goofy. It had this mix of creepy, funny, and smart that made it stand out against Disney or WB Kids. Plus, the intro theme alone could stick in your head for hours. The movie, Clash of the Pharaohs, and won awards proves it wasn't just another throwaway cartoon. Even now, and for many of us, it was our first crash course in Egyptian mythology. Kenny the Shark. When it came to Discovery Kids' animated lineup, Kenny the Shark stood out as one of the quirkiest and most lovable shows. Premiering in 2003, it followed the adventures of Kenny, a tiger shark who mysteriously gained the ability to live on land. Unlike the action-packed tone of some of its cartoon peers, this show thrived on humor, family dynamics, and lighthearted adventures. For kids who were flipping between Disney and WB on Saturday mornings, Kenny the Shark offered something refreshingly different, equal parts silly and heartwarming. The idea resonated because it tapped into every kid's fascination with animals, especially sharks. By blending marine biology fun with everyday suburban life, the show cleverly brought science into the living room without making it feel like homework. It wasn't just a cartoon about a talking shark. It was a fish-out-of-water story, literally, that leaned into comedy while subtly sneaking in lessons about friendship, responsibility, and the natural world. Kenny the Shark was not Kenny's first appearance.
Just walked up on land, moved into the first decent-looking house I saw. And that's not the weirdest part, though. I've actually gotten to be friends with a kid who lives there.
In the late 1990s, a series of shorts featuring Kenny ran between regular programming. In the live-action film version, it starred male child actor Spencer Breslin. Kenny was not seen, as the camera was from his point of view. Unlike most animated television shows which take place in fictional cities or states, etc., this one takes place in the real-life town of Tiburon, California. Kenny the Shark was created by Jack Huber and developed as part of Discovery Kids' effort to balance educational value with entertainment. The show was produced by Discovery Kids in partnership with animation studio Curious Pictures, who had also worked on Codename, Kids Next Door, and other quirky cartoons. The team wanted a mascot-style character who could embody the Discovery brand's love for animals while still appealing to kids on a comedic level. Kenny was the perfect fit, a predator-turned-goofy house pet. The animation style was bright, clean, and approachable, aimed at younger audiences, but written smartly enough for older kids to enjoy. Its slice-of-life storytelling meant the show could explore a wide range of scenarios. Kenny struggling at school, hiding from neighbors, or just trying to fit in with the human world. This flexible format made it a fun watch, week after week. The show's most memorable episodes leaned on its mix of absurdity and heart. Characters also made the show stick. Aside from Kenny, there was Kat, his human best friend, who acted as his voice of reason and often tried to help him navigate human life. Her parents added the family sitcom dynamic, providing plenty of comic relief as they tried to manage life with a shark in the house. Kenny himself was written as overconfident but lovable, which made him easy for kids to latch onto as a favorite. The dynamic between Kenny and Kat anchored the series. Their friendship felt genuine, showcasing themes of loyalty, teamwork, and problem-solving. For kids watching, it wasn't just about the laughs. It was also about the fantasy of having an unusual best friend who made the ordinary world extraordinary. Despite its charm, Kenny the Shark only lasted 2 seasons, ending in 2005. Much like other Discovery Kids originals, its cancellation wasn't about poor reception. It was more about network shifts. As Discovery Kids transitioned and prepared for the joint venture that would turn it into the hub, shows that didn't fit the new brand identity quietly faded away. Still, the memory of Kenny lives on. For many viewers, the show was a bright spot in their childhood, a blend of science, comedy, and pure imagination that stood out in a sea of Saturday morning cartoons. Looking back, Kenny the Shark remains one of those shows that felt like it was made just for us, capturing the kind of fun, weird, and unforgettable magic Discovery Kids excelled at. So, what actually ended Discovery Kids' run on NBC's Saturday morning block? By the late 2000s, Saturday morning television itself was dying. Ratings were shrinking as kids shifted to cable networks and, increasingly, the internet. Networks no longer saw major profit in maintaining big, branded kids' blocks. For NBC, the partnership had served its purpose. It satisfied federal educational programming requirements under the Children's Television Act, but it wasn't dominating ratings. In 2006, the block was rebranded as Cubo,
Cubo is coming soon on NBC.
marking the quiet end of Discovery Kids on NBC. No big finale, just a corporate pivot. But the bigger shift was happening on cable. In 2009, Discovery Communications announced a joint venture with Hasbro, the toy giant behind brands like Transformers and My Little Pony. The plan was simple: reimagine the Discovery Kids cable channel into something broader, more commercially powerful, and more franchise-driven. In 2010, Discovery Kids officially rebranded as The Hub. The shift wasn't random, it was strategic. Educational adventure was no longer the priority. The new goal was toy-based intellectual property, cross-promotion, and built-in brand loyalty. Instead of survival shows and science-driven storytelling, the network leaned into recognizable franchises that could sell merchandise and build multimedia ecosystems. Eventually, even the hub evolved again, becoming Discovery Family. And that's how Discovery Kids ended, not with cancellation headlines or a dramatic goodbye, but with a gradual transformation shaped by industry trends. The fall of Saturday morning TV, the rise of cable dominance, the push toward franchise branding. It wasn't that Discovery Kids failed, it simply existed in a moment of television history that no longer lasted. But for those of us who were there, cereal in hand, hearing that D-chomp echo through the room, it mattered. And sometimes that's enough. At the end of the day, the reason I made this video was simple. I wanted to deep dive into something I genuinely loved and share it with you. Discovery Kids was a small piece of television history, but it was a big piece of my childhood. And sometimes it's worth slowing down and revisiting the things that shaped us, even if the rest of the world moved on. I know I didn't cover every single show. There are definitely a few I could have spent more time on. So if there's a specific Discovery Kids series you remember, or if you'd like me to do a deeper dive into the Hub era and how that transformation played out, let me know in the comments. I'd honestly love to keep this conversation going. If this video sparked something for you, maybe a half-forgotten memory or the urge to go rewatch one of these shows, then I did what I set out to do. Maybe after this, you'll go track down an old episode and relive a little piece of that Saturday morning feeling. And if you've stayed with me all the way to the end, I really appreciate you. Seriously, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next deep dive.
Welcome to a brand new channel from Discovery. You're watching Discovery Kids, and the adventure starts here.